Episode 4.1, Understanding Your Energy Type. So today we're figuring out who's who in this world. Exactly. Did you know that everyone has their own energy type? Well, I've heard about it, but I don't really understand why I need to know this. Oh, it's critically important. Imagine that the world is a giant chess game. Who are you in it? A king, a pawn, a queen? Good question. I'd like to be the queen. But what if you're a knight, constantly moving in an L shape, but trying to move diagonally like a bishop? You mean I could be living against my type? Exactly. And that leads to exhaustion, frustration, and a constant feeling that something is off. Okay, then tell me, what are the types? There are 4: manifestors, generators, projectors, and reflectors. And manifestors are the ones who initiate processes. They act independently. They don't wait for approval. Their job is to start, not necessarily to finish. Like leaders, but in a specific sense. They initiate, but don't always control the outcome. So they come up with ideas, but don't necessarily implement them, pretty much. And generators? Generators are the driving force of the world. They can't just start doing something. They need to wait for a response that tells them, this is for me. Wait, so if a generator just does everything randomly, they'll burn out? Yes, and very quickly. But if they work in their flow, they have limitless energy. And projectors? Projectors are strategists and guides. They don't have their own energy, but they see how to direct other people's energy. Like the smartest person in the room? You could say that. Projectors often feel invisible because people don't hear them until they're invited. So they need an invitation to be valued? Exactly. If a projector tries to guide someone without being asked, they just get ignored. And reflectors? Reflectors are the mirrors of society. They reflect everything that's happening around them and absorb other people's energy. So, they're highly sensitive to their environment? Yes. If a reflector is surrounded by toxic people, they start feeling bad themselves. And if they're in a good environment, then they unlock their potential and become an indicator of where society is headed. Interesting, but how do I know which type I am? It's determined by your body graph. Can you explain my type to me? Worse, you're a generator. That means your power is in response. If you make decisions with your head instead of that internal feeling of yes or no, you risk heading in the wrong direction. Wait, so it's like when I look at a restaurant menu and instantly know I want steak instead of pasta. Exactly. Your response tells you yes or no on a physical level. And what if I make a decision without waiting for a response? You might make a logical choice, but it will lack energy and satisfaction. That's the road to burnout. So that's why sometimes I take on projects, but they don't excite me. Exactly. Maybe you chose them with your mind and not through response. So now I need to learn to listen to myself? Exactly. But first, you need to understand how the other types work so you can interact with them correctly. Shall we move on? Let's go. Episode 4.2, Manifestors, the Great Initiators. So now we're going to figure out those who start everything. Yes, manifestors are the ones who create momentum. They can initiate something new, even if no one has done it before. So they're like pioneers? Exactly. They initiate, but don't always finish. Their role is to push the world in a new direction. What's their issue? Why do they often irritate people around them? Because they don't ask for permission. They just act, and people struggle to adapt. So they don't explain their actions? Yes, and that's their biggest mistake. If a manifestor simply starts acting without informing others, they face resistance. Like a pilot deciding to take off without announcing it? Exactly. People don't understand what's happening and automatically push back. So it's important for a manifestor to inform others? Yes, that's the key. They don't need to ask for permission, but they must inform. What are their strengths? They are fast, decisive, and fearless. They aren't afraid to go where no one has gone before. And their weaknesses? If they forget to inform, they get blocked. If they are constantly controlled, they lose interest and abandon what they started. Who are some famous manifestors? Elon Musk, Napoleon, George Washington. They changed reality, but often faced resistance. Napoleon too? Of course. He broke established systems, but people didn't understand him, and in the end, they rejected him. How should generators interact with a manifestor? Don't try to control them. Let them initiate, but at the same time, listen to your response. Is it worth following them? And if I don't agree, then just don't engage. A manifestor doesn't need to convince others. They simply do what they feel is right. Got it. So their job is to start things, but if they want support, they need to inform people? Exactly. A manifestor is the spark of change. The key is knowing how to work with them. Understood. Shall we move on? Let's go. Episode 4.3, Generators, the driving force of the world. Now, let's talk about those who keep the world moving. Yes, generators are the energy that builds and creates. Without them, nothing would get done. So they're like workers? Yes, but not just workers. They are the ones who truly love what they do. Their role is to wait for a response and use their energy wisely. Wait, what does waiting for a response mean? A generator can't just decide to do something. Why not? Isn't a person in control of their own life? Of course, but generators need an inner reaction, a response. If there's no response, it means this isn't their path. So if someone offers me a project, I should feel it rather than logically decide? Exactly. If your body says yes, you'll gain energy. If you agree without a response, you'll feel drained. That explains why I sometimes start things but can't force myself to finish them. Exactly. Maybe you made a choice based on logic, fear, or obligation instead of waiting for a response. What if I don't feel a response but still have to do it? Then you'll be forcing yourself, working against your natural flow, and eventually burning out. So generators are like batteries, but only when they do what's right for them. Yes, when a generator is engaged in the right activity, they have limitless energy. And if they do something that isn't right for them, then they get exhausted, frustrated, and angry. Which famous people were generators? Albert Einstein, he wasn't just studying physics, he lived it. Did he follow his response? Yes. He couldn't stop until he found answers. So if a generator ignores their response, they become angry, tired, and unhappy? Exactly. But if they follow their response, they can work for hours and feel deeply satisfied. How should people interact with a generator? Don't pressure them. Don't rush them. Just give them a stimulus and watch for a response. Okay, so my job isn't just to do things, but to feel my response first? Yes. A generator isn't a slave to work. They need to enjoy the process. Wow, this makes so much sense now. So shall we move on? Let's go.